a brief synopsis of my professional career,
I'm just gonna let
and then
this
open up
recording
everything
continue.
to you guys, because I would rather answer your questions than try to explain all the variety of different jobs that I've had. But I've always focused on special libraries, so that was the intent of what we were talking about when she asked me to come in. So, um, I got my, actually, I didn't like high school too much, especially when they stuck us in we had to do homework at school. Got into big trouble with the kid across the street from the table at me. Gave me detention once and only once. And I went to my counselor. How can I get out of this? He said, well, you can be in the orchestra, you can be in the band, or you can go work in the library. Well, I'm already in the orchestra, I don't want to be in the band, so I'll pick the library. Next thing I know, I'm there for the next 2 years till I graduate. They loved me, I loved them. So that started the whole thing right there. Then I get into the College of St. Catherine's in St. Paul, Minnesota, where you can do where if you're in the library science program, you're required to have a subject specialty. Now they are a university. Back then they were a college. But either way, they had a lot of local professional librarians very interested in the way that they were doing things. And the University of Minnesota's library school was like going up and down. Eventually it did close down. But my best mentor of all times was where we were required to do an internship before we got our bachelor's degree. Now, and I wish that I could hear that this is the case in all the master's programs. I don't know if it is. I really wish they would review that. Because who I consider was my mentor was the person that I did my internship with in a place that's called Cargill out in Minnesota. And he was a teacher as well. So for the 2 weeks I was there, I was not only shadowing almost everybody on their staff, I had a list of different readings to sort of mesmerize myself in as to what the special libraries world was all about and all that sort of thing. I came out of there totally mesmerized. During all that, I was working at the public library. I had actually found out there was a way to do it was a non-paying job, but I loved the idea of doing it. I did. There was a library at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. I got some of the best books for cataloging. By the time I got done with my bachelor's degree, I think I had more knowledge in cataloging that some people don't get out of the masters. I also created a play index for the residential staff there in the theater. And from there, I went on to, before I finished up my bachelor's, I'd also had some time volunteering at the Hennepin County Library. So by that point, I was like, no, no public libraries for me. I need a specialty. So my first job, full-time job as a professional librarian, was at a place called the Montgomery County Planning Commission outside of Philadelphia. From there, I went to Arco Chemical, which was my first for it. Chemists are very interesting. So are engineers, but that's a different story. And from there, I went to Thiokol, which is another specialty chemical company. I loved the labs, but I wouldn't go back in there without the lab coat on. Mobile Engineering was the next one. I actually stayed there for a while. I actually made it almost 5 years there. Squibb, wrong move for me. Pharmaceutical companies don't work. Then came the 80s. A lot of my librarian friends and myself really got struck hard by the 80s. But at any rate, I did find a couple of temp jobs before I finally got the job at New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and have been there ever since. I'm going to be celebrating 26 years at my job in the fall. Yay! She was the best thing that came along these last couple years. I've run that library off and on as a solo library more times than I care to count. For maternity leaves, or people being removed from their jobs or whatever. So I feel like I am a special library in more ways than one. But I'd like to leave it with that, and I'm more interested in what kind of questions you have about what's facing you, and if there's anything I can show you by example that I've been able to deal with. Sure, go ahead.
So it seems like you're dealing well with math and science.
Oh, believe me, there's other libraries out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's great about the librarian world. I personally don't like, I mean, I tolerated the public libraries. I'd rather be a user than but in a larger public library, you do have the subject specialties even there. I started off in music. I thought I had died and gone to heaven.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What kind of music was it?
Hmm?
What kind of music was it?
The staff, the whole staff, all of us were musicians, myself included. So it was like the perfect way to get me started. And then you got, oh dear. Well, yeah, even in the college libraries, we had a special music collection as well, too. So there's a variety of different sources out there. For me, though, I can tolerate the public libraries up to a certain point. It was the college libraries I didn't like. I didn't feel like we were paid as well. I made more money working for the public library as a bookshelver than I did doing something similar at my college campus. So I figured, got to go where the bucks are.
Yeah, I just want to add, I'm sort of the opposite. I did my undergraduate in geoscience and environmental science, so I've always been more interested in the sciences. But I've also really liked the library too. I worked in the library when I was an undergraduate in their preservation section, actually physically fixing the books. And so I thought I wanted to go more into preservation, and they also had a science library, and I was always really interested in that. And so I think that undergraduate background of being in the sciences at geoscience and environmental science helped me get this job at the DEP.
Oh, yeah. You definitely got it, girl.
Yeah. And I also worked at the Library of Science and Medicine while I was here as part of my work study program, and I think that was incredibly helpful and useful. Do any of you frequent the Library of Science and Medicine? It's over on Bush campus. Yeah, the subject libraries are there are great. But yeah, if any of you are interested in becoming a science library or going in that direction, definitely go talk to the librarians at the LSM on Bush campus.
Yes.
So you had a lot of unpaid library experience.
Yeah,
Were
some
you
of it
doing
was
other things
intentional.
to supplement your income at the time?
I actually was a commuter for the first 2 years when I was in the bachelor's program. So I was still at home. After kind of an interesting situation with my father, I decided the nuns were going to be a lot nicer to deal with than living at home was. So that's when I finally sort of moved out. But by that point, I had enough money stashed away that it was easier to make that decision.
Okay.
So, yeah. Plus, I'm the oldest of 9 kids, so it was kind of a very easy decision to make. Yeah. But with the volunteer jobs, I found them a humongous asset to my, I'm not even sure what people are calling them nowadays, the curriculum vitae or your, whatever you put together for your resume. I had somebody come up to me at a Special Libraries Association meeting. I've been active in the Princeton chapter years past. Saying, "Are you the one that worked at the Guthrie?" And I said, "Yep, that was me." But for me, it was important that people recognize if you're putting a resume together, even the volunteer stuff is just as valuable to a potential employee as the non-paying ones. They want to see that you're out there willing to do whatever kind of work it takes to do what you really want. And if that's what you want to do, then yeah, that's a great way to go. Time is, whatever time you get, most of those volunteer jobs, it's whatever time you feel like putting in. They usually just want a warm body. And with the Guthrie, I think that's one of my 2 things about that. Of all the libraries I've worked for, every single corporate one no longer exists. The Tyrone Guthrie's staff reference, I remember, they had this really long name. But anyway, the library there provided more insights to me than probably anything else I did. It was just, yeah, it adds value to your resume and adds value to yourself, and it provided me with some very interesting cataloging records. So, it really just depends on where your interests are that you can find valuable assets to, you know, to get yourself going. Anybody else willing? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm confusing this with environmental protection agency or
Sure.
something else, but I have a friend who works there, and she was telling me that there was a time where the government wanted to remove all of the books from the library or the manuscripts.
That
and
must have
they
been on the
realized-
federal level. It
Okay.
never really happened on the state level. But actually,
But they
isn't that
did-
what we were
Didn't
talking
they
about
fire
before?
you?
Well, they tried to.
Yeah.
But the New Jersey State Library came along. There was some funding issues under Christy Whitman. And I actually got my pink slip on my birthday, which didn't help either. But between situations that were changing down at the state library and the repercussions from Christy Whitman, we literally got saved by Bob Bland, who was the director of the New Jersey State Library at the time. So we are considered a branch. We still fully function as a separate unit. But when it comes to assuring that we have a permanent spot now on the council, yeah, they've been a godsend for us. And they're different even from a public library. I don't even know if I want to go into the state library because I haven't really spent much time down there. But does that help?
Yeah, because she had just mentioned that they thought to start removing the books, but then they realized this is a bad idea.
Yeah, because well, at least for EPA, there was, if not still are, central libraries in each of the different regions that they have identified throughout the state. Throughout the 50 states, and then they also have or still are had, or in some cases I don't know. Most of the labs also have research libraries as well, but I know they have taken beatings over the years. Either the biggest one being is that they're not considered government employees. They are on contract. Because I know the one time I did interview for a job, it was a phone interview for a position down in Philadelphia, and they actually did not know that there was a city tax in addition to the state tax. And I said, sorry, what you're quoting me is going to cost me more than I'm not going to see the amount of money that you think I'm going to see. So I backed out of that position very quickly. Because there's yeah, you have to watch out for the consultant jobs, seriously.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of the EPA libraries are now run by a contract, or they're actually part of the agency. Because I mean,
I don't think there's that many at all.
for a long period of time, there was this just constant trend of, you know, we want to cut parts of government, privatize it, and I think the EPA, you know, was targeted in that. And the library system was too, because I've tried to get documents from the EPA, and they're usually all the document delivery side of things seem to be handled by contractors, so that could be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're DEP. We're on the state level, and then EPA. They're the federal level, and that's a completely different agency. A lot of people get us confused. DEP, EPA. But
Well, yeah, especially
we're
when
the New Jersey State Department of Environmental Protection.
Yeah, and some of the other states actually use EPA as part of their library title, which I'm sure doesn't help the situation much either. I'm going to go back first.
I'm sorry, I actually had 2 questions, but
Okay.
my first, and I've always wanted to ask this, and I've never been thinking about it when I've had a special librarian
Okay.
around. I'm assuming that you don't use Dewey Decimal or Library of Congress. Is that correct?
Oh no, I use Library of Congress. I will
Okay.
not touch Dewey Decimal.
Well, I assume, because I know there are other cataloging systems elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, like, why Library of Congress? Is it to integrate with the Library of Congress systems? Is it just that's what started? Sort of what classification scheme and why?
I think in terms of a special library, Library of Congress works a lot better. I know know that when you look at the the whole of New Jersey and the public library system, they seem to think that Dewey Decimal works fine for all the public libraries. That's fine. I do not want it on my books.
Oh, no, I totally respect your opinion.
I don't have labels that long.
My second question was in terms of like collection development, because you're not just holding reports, you're holding published works as well. Is that correct?
Less and less, but that's just because of our book budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
well that's what I was going to say. Where does the impetus for collection development come? Does it come from your background as a librarian in this area? Does it come from the professionals in the field asking you to stock certain things? Sort of.
It comes from a variety of different sources. Now, we used to call it, when I was in library school, gray literature. I'm not sure if they still use that term now, but that's like, I want to say most of everything that we have down in the basement in our DEP collection.
Yeah,
That's
DEP
what most
reports.
people would consider gray literature. And that's like all these state government documents that with really no consistency to the way they're published, printed, or pulled together. But, and nowadays they're all coming out in PDFs, and they still haven't gotten it through their thick skulls there at work that they really have to tell us when they do that, because otherwise we can't catalog them so they know where they are. Yeah, long trying business, but does that answer your question?
Kind of. I was thinking more like when you sit down to purchase books, like what?
I don't have that much money to do it, so actually our library's focusing more on the journal titles. Not
Okay.
that the books are not important.
But you're less interested in monographs than you are in serialization.
I don't have enough money for them.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
And
So it's not that you're
as
deliberately
priorities,
not interested, it's your priorities have shifted.
they've shifted, and we do have money. They're usually going for very specific books for either specific groups or in some cases we have one specialist in one particular area, and if they happen to be a big library user, like we're considered part of the Office of Science where we are, we can tend to cater first to them in terms of the book collection, and then when we have money, we try to do it for the rest of the department as well. So.
Yeah, just to add to that, a lot of it is feedback from the people who use our library. I mean, our department is about 2,800 people. Out of that, a relatively small number of patrons actually really come into the library and use it frequently. So we do listen very closely to, the engineers and scientists who come into the library and use it, and they give suggestions. And a lot of it's based on what the department is actually doing. So the different projects that people are working on.
Oh, so you'll purchase books to
Yeah,
help
we'll-
specific
yeah,
situations
for
rather than just to
instance,
add to the collection.
The first year I was there, I started with the department in 2012, and that was when Hurricane Sandy hit, a few months after that. And so the priorities of the department shifted dramatically. All of a sudden, people were being pulled from all the different divisions and being tasked to work on Hurricane Sandy recovery, coastal resilience, all those sorts of issues were cropping up. And so we started getting requests for people who wanted to find out how to build up the coast and coastal resilience, that sort of materials, and flooding issues and things like that. So people started requesting those types of things. So that's a priority. That's an area that I think we should probably be collecting more. And
Oh yeah.
a lot of monographs now, we generally do interlibrary loan for them, unless it's used very frequently, and then I'll submit a request to purchase. It isn't always approved, but
Yeah, I'm not even sure what the status is. Though occasionally, because we are a government agency, there are a few documents that we can get as PDFs. I think the National Academy of Sciences is one of them. So we don't have to purchase it, but sometimes there's limited use as to how much I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've had to open up one of those. Those
National
books.
Academies Press.
National Academy of Sciences.
Yeah, National Academy Libraries Press, a lot of their monographs you can get for free.
Which is a big help for us.
If you
because
want a print
just-
copy though,
Oh, well,
you
yeah.
have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But you can get an online
So
PDF.
we're about out of time. Do you have
Yeah,
any
figured.
final thoughts? Anything you want to leave us with?
No, I just didn't know if you guys needed some ideas for your resumes or anything like that. That was the only thing I wanted to.
I was just gonna ask, like,
Sure.
maybe in final
Sure.
comments you can include,
Absolutely.
as students, and especially if we're interested in special libraries, things like that, what do you suggest to us, like in classes to take, or skills that we, you know, you may be looking for on resumes as you may hire people, that type of thing? Like just any suggestions maybe as you have any closing things on that type of thing, or
Cataloging?
experience, you know, that
I would
be
take
good.
cataloging classes, because in
Okay.
special libraries, when I took cataloging here, I just took the one cataloging class,
Mhm.
and I remember the professor telling me that, you know, most libraries don't do that much original cataloging anymore. It's all copy cataloging now, so you don't really have to, you know, really delve too deeply into it. But working in a special library with special collections, we deal with a lot of, you know, DEP documents that nobody else has them, only we have them. And so you have to do original cataloging. You can't copy it from anywhere else. So
And
that's one regret that I really had was not taking more catalog classes. But at the time I didn't know whether I wanted to go into special libraries. You know, I didn't know what jobs were out there. You know, I mean, you don't know where I wanted to go into sort of academic or special, but the job market at that time, and it probably still is, very, very tight. So, you know, I wanted to do more of a general spread just to increase my chances of getting in, you know, anywhere. But cataloging for me, if you want to go into special libraries, I think is very important.
And I've done some additional additions to we're merged with the state library's online catalog. So when I catalog a book, it may be in their collection, but I make sure I get all of the science subjects headings in there that I can, that are appropriate for our staff. Because to just say it's about land use is one thing, but to get specific about where that land use is being applied is where our guys are going to be looking for. So yeah, definitely. Catalog, don't be afeared. It can be conquered.
Okay, thank you so much.